She smiled while destroying my life. The moment I knew something was wrong wasn't when she lied to me. It was when she stopped caring if I believed her. We were sitting on a couch, her legs tucked under mine, her phone buzzing nonstop between us. I asked who kept texting her, and she didn't even look up when she said, just someone from work. No defensiveness. No explanation. Just calm. Too calm. We've been together almost 3 years, living in the same apartment, sharing bills, routines, inside jokes. I used to know every version of her. Tired, angry, excited, insecure. But that night, she felt like a stranger borrowing her body. I tried to laugh it off, but my chest felt tight. I asked again, softer this time. She sighed, rolled her eyes, and told me I was overthinking everything lately. That I was exhausting. That hurt more than any accusation could. Then she stood up, grabbed her jacket, and said she needed air. No argument. No explanation. Just the sound of the door closing behind her. I stayed on the couch, staring at the spot where she'd been sitting, telling myself I was being dramatic. But something inside me already knew this wasn't a bad night. This was the beginning of her exit. She didn't come home that night. At first I told myself she just needed space, that couples fight, that adults cool off and come back. But by 2 a.m., the apartment felt too quiet, like it was holding its breath. I texted her once, "Are you okay?" and stared at the screen until it dimmed. No reply. By morning, she acted like nothing happened. Walked in with coffee, kissed my cheek, said she crashed at a friend's place because her phone died. Her voice was smooth, practiced. I wanted to believe her so badly that I ignored how she never said whose place it was. From that day on, she started living a double schedule. She'd leave early, come back late, and whenever I asked how her day was, I got summaries instead of stories. She stopped asking about mine altogether. I'd talk, and she'd nod, already somewhere else. I tried fixing things the only way I knew how, being better. I cooked more, cleaned more, gave her space when she asked and affection when she didn't. I convinced myself that love was patience, that this was just a rough phase. Then I noticed the small changes that didn't make sense. She started dressing differently, not nicer, just intentional. Perfume she never wore around me. Outfits she changed out of before coming home. Well, I joked about it. She said she just wanted to feel like herself again. One night, I reached for her in bed and she flinched. Not dramatically, just enough. She apologized immediately, said she was tired. But she turned her back to me and stayed that way all night. The worst part wasn't the distance. It was how calm she was about it. Like she had already mourned us and moved on while I was still standing at the beginning, trying to catch up. A few days later, I overheard her on the phone in the bathroom. She was laughing softly, the way she used to laugh with me. She said, "I can't talk right now, he's home," and my stomach dropped. When she came out, I asked who she was talking to. She looked annoyed, like I was interrupting something important, and said, "Just a friend from work." "You're being paranoid again." That word stuck with me. Again. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay there listening to her breathe, realizing I was sharing a bed with someone who had already left. She just hadn't told me yet. And that's when I decided I needed proof. I didn't plan to snoop. I told myself I just wanted peace of mind, something to quiet the panic twisting in my chest. But when she left her laptop open on the kitchen table and went to shower, the universe practically pushed me toward it. A message popped up in the corner of the screen. "I miss you already." No name. Just a heart emoji next to it. My hand started shaking before I even touched the mouse. I told myself I wouldn't open anything, that crossing that line would change everything. But I already knew something had changed. I just needed confirmation. Her messages were open. No password. No effort to hide it. Almost like she wanted to be caught, but didn't want to say it out loud. The conversation wasn't graphic. It was worse. Inside jokes. Long voice notes. Plans. Comfort. Emotional intimacy poured across the screen like a second relationship I had never been invited into. She wrote things she hadn't said to me in months. That she felt seen. That she could finally breathe. That she didn't feel judged. I scrolled back and felt my stomach drop. This had been going on for weeks. While I was cooking her dinner. While I was waiting up for her at night. While I was blaming myself for her distance. Then I saw his name. Ethan. A co-worker. Married. My heart started racing. I kept scrolling even though every part of me screamed to stop. There were voice messages from him saying he wished he could hold her. She replied that she wished things were different. That timing was cruel. She never once said, "I have a boyfriend." I heard the shower turn off. I barely had time to close the laptop before she walked out wrapped in a towel, calm and relaxed like she hadn't just shattered my reality. I asked her quietly who Ethan was. She froze. Not surprised, just tired. Like she'd been expecting this moment. She sat down and said, "It's not what you think." I didn't raise my voice. I just asked why she needed him if she had me. She stared at the floor and said, "Because he listens to me without expecting anything back." That sentence hollowed me out. She said she wasn't cheating. She said it was emotional support. She said she didn't mean for it to go that far. She said she felt lonely even when I was right next to her. I asked if she loved him. She didn't answer. And in that silence, I felt something break, not loudly, but completely. I told her I needed honesty now, not comfort. I asked if she wanted to be with me or with him. She whispered, "I don't know." That was the moment I realized I wasn't competing with another man. I was competing with her fear of being alone. And I was losing. After that night, nothing was the same. She didn't leave the apartment, but it might as well have been a different person living there. Every word she said felt measured, every touch calculated. I could feel her withdrawing, brick by brick, from a foundation I thought was unshakable. I tried to confront her gently at first, asked why she was shutting me out, why she needed someone else to listen. She would smile faintly and say, "I just need time." Her tone sounded like a teacher correcting a student, not a lover pleading for understanding. Days passed, and the distance became unbearable. She started going out more. Work late became a permanent excuse. Calls from friends I had never met. Laughter behind closed doors. And always, that phone glued to her hand. I felt like I was disappearing from my own life. The bed we shared felt cold. Her side empty not because she wasn't there physically, but because her heart was elsewhere. I started questioning everything. My words, my actions, my worth. Every smile she gave me felt like it was being rationed. Then came the nights I dreaded most. She would fall asleep on the couch instead of next to me, her head on her phone as if waiting for him. I wanted to rage. I wanted to beg. I wanted to scream that I was here, waiting, hurting, still loyal. But I didn't. I was paralyzed, watching her slowly leave me without even packing a bag. I started noticing the little things. The lingering touches on herself when texting, the new perfume she only wore when he might see her, the way she laughed at things she had never laughed at before. I tried to ignore it, convince myself it wasn't real, that maybe I was imagining it. But the truth was I wasn't. I was witnessing her life becoming his while mine shrank around me. One night, I followed her after she said she was going to a friend's dinner. She met him in a dark parking lot. They hugged, laughed, whispered, and I just stood there, frozen, the rain soaking through my jacket, knowing the person I trusted the most had already chosen someone else. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't even call. I drove home, hands gripping the wheels so hard I thought they'd crack, stomach twisted like a knife. The realization hit me fully. I wasn't being cheated on, just physically. I was being replaced emotionally, and there was no coming back from that. I couldn't keep pretending anymore. The next evening, I waited until she came home, and as soon as the door closed behind her, I asked her to sit. Her calm smile made my stomach turn. She knew this was coming, and somehow, she wasn't afraid. I laid it all out. Every text, every late night, every laugh I didn't recognize. I told her I knew about Ethan. I told her I felt replaced, abandoned, and invisible in my own relationship. My voice trembled. My hands shook, but I needed her to see what she was doing. She listened, nodded, sometimes sighed. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She just said, I didn't mean to hurt you. That's when I realized something terrifying. She wasn't going to fight for us. She wasn't confused. She wasn't lost. She had already made her choice, and she was letting me confront it just to ease her own guilt. I asked her if she loved him. She looked at me blankly and said, I don't know if love is the right word anymore. My chest tightened. That was her final curtain call. Not a shout, not a scream, not a dramatic exit. Just words that left me dangling in a storm I couldn't control. I tried to argue, tried to remind her of everything we'd built, everything we dreamed. She interrupted gently, almost politely, and said, it's not about what you built. It's about what I need. The apartment felt smaller, suffocating. I realized I could yell, beg, cry. It wouldn't matter. She had already checked out emotionally. And in that calm, careful way she explained herself, I felt more pain than I ever had when she was angry or upset before. I went to bed that night alone, but not just physically. My trust, my love, my certainty, everything I thought we had already left. And the worst part was, she didn't seem to care. After that confrontation, I started noticing all the little things I had conveniently ignored for years. The way she always had her phone face down. The way she laughed softly at messages she never showed me. The way she worked late when she never had actual work to do. It all made sense now. Every missed plan, every canceled date, every time she seemed distant wasn't random. It was her slowly, carefully withdrawing from me. And I'd been too blind, too in love, too desperate to admit it. One night, I stayed awake while she was in the shower just listening. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Can't wait to see you tonight, Red Heart. My hands went cold. I knew without opening it exactly who it was from. I confronted her immediately after she came out. She didn't deny it. She sighed and said, I told you it's complicated. I just need someone to talk to. Her calmness was infuriating. She wasn't trying to protect me. She was protecting herself. I realized then that I was no longer her priority. I was someone she had leaned on for comfort while she reached for someone else. Someone safe, predictable, easy. Someone who would stay while she figured out her life. The thought hit me like a punch. I wasn't being loved. I was being tolerated until she found what she really wanted. That night, I didn't sleep. I stayed in the darkness, replaying every memory, every promise, every smile that now felt fake. The person I had trusted most in my life had already decided she didn't need me anymore, even though she still lived under the same roof. It was subtle, slow, and cruel. And the worst part? I had given her every chance to show me her truth, and she had chosen not to. It wasn't sudden. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't dramatic. That was the cruelest part. She packed a small bag while I sat in the living room, pretending not to watch, pretending not to feel the weight of every step she took. She told me she was going to stay with a friend for a while, to think clearly. Her voice was soft, almost caring. But I knew better. This wasn't thinking. This was escape. And deep down, I knew she wouldn't be coming back. I asked if she still loved me. She hesitated, biting her lip, then whispered, I don't know. I need space. Those words hit harder than any slap, any scream, any betrayal could have. I tried to argue, to beg, to make her see the consequences. She shook her head gently, said, I'm not trying to hurt you. I just need to figure out who I am. She left before I could respond. The door clicked shut behind her, and I sat in silence, listening to the echo. The apartment felt enormous and empty, and I realized the truth. She hadn't just left me physically. She had already left emotionally weeks ago. The first night alone, I scrolled through old messages. Smiles, late-night calls, plans for the future. Every memory felt tainted now. Every laugh a reminder of how easily someone could disappear from your life while pretending to stay. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I couldn't even cry properly. I just sat there, replaying her last words, trying to figure out how someone I had trusted with my whole life could walk away so quietly, so calmly, without looking back. And that's when I realized she wasn't just leaving me. She was leaving the entire life we had built together. 2 days after she left, my phone buzzed. A message from her. I miss you. I'm scared. Can we talk? I stared at it for what felt like hours. My chest tightened, my hands shook. Part of me wanted to run to her, to tell her I forgave everything, that I'd take her back if she just said the words. But another part of me, the part that had been screaming at me for weeks, whispered, she left. She chose this. She already made her decision. I didn't reply. Later that night, a mutual friend told me what I had feared. She had been spending time with someone else the entire time. Someone who wasn't me. Someone she called safe and exciting all at once. I felt hollow. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to demand answers. But the truth was, I already knew. I had felt it creeping in long before I saw it. She wasn't uncertain. She wasn't confused. She was done. The next week was unbearable. Every message notification made my heart race. Every ring of the doorbell made me hope and fear it was her. I started replaying every conversation, every small argument, every laugh that now seemed like a rehearsal for her departure. Then late one night she called. I didn't answer. I just stared at the screen, knowing that if I did, I would break. I would beg. I would give her the power she had taken from me by leaving quietly. I realized then that sometimes the people we love don't need to hurt us intentionally. They hurt us simply by leaving, slowly, carefully, and without a second thought. Days turned into weeks, and the emptiness became unbearable. I kept replaying every detail of our relationship, trying to pinpoint when it had all gone wrong. I remember the nights she laughed at messages I didn't see, the mornings she was too tired to talk, the way she leaned away when I reached for her. All the signs had been there, and I had ignored them. It hit me like a punch. I hadn't lost her in one moment. I had lost her slowly, day by day, while believing I was building a future with someone who was already planning their exit. Every smile she gave me, every I love you, every promise, it had been rehearsed. Not necessarily malicious, just detached. I started noticing myself changing. I became hyper-aware, defensive, distrustful of everything she did. The man she had loved, the one who trusted her implicitly, was gone. In his place was someone paranoid, exhausted, heartbroken, and awake to a truth he had been too blind to see before. Then came the real blow. I realized it wasn't just about her leaving. It was about me giving everything to someone who didn't want it anymore. About loving someone who was already somewhere else emotionally. About the fact that I had invested my heart, my time, my trust, only to be set aside like a bookmark in her life story. One she had rewritten without me. I remember sitting in the dark, staring at our photos on the wall. Her smile on each one, now, felt like mockery. The apartment that had been our home felt like a museum of a life that no longer existed. And in that quiet, terrible clarity, I understood something that no comfort, no advice, no therapy could have prepared me for. She hadn't betrayed me with her actions. She had betrayed me with her absence. I was still breathing, but I wasn't alive in that relationship anymore. It was a Thursday night when her message came through. I can't stop thinking about you. Please can we meet? For a moment, my heart leapt. Part of me wanted to say yes, to run to her and hear her voice, to feel the warmth I'd missed for weeks. But the other part, the part that had been screaming at me since the first late night laugh, since the first lie, since the first distance, told me no. I stared at the screen. My thumb hovered over the reply button, trembling. I could feel all the old feelings, all the love, all the hope, rushing back in a torrent. But underneath it all was the truth I couldn't ignore. She had chosen someone else, and now she wanted me to wait while she figured herself out. I didn't reply. That night, I sat on the couch, hands shaking, staring at the dark. I realized something else. She wasn't trying to get back with me because she missed me. She missed the safety net I had been. She missed the comfort of someone who would always be there, no matter what she did. I felt anger bubble up first, then a deep, hollow sadness. The kind that makes your chest ache for no reason. The kind that doesn't go away when you cry because it's not tears that fix betrayal. I finally understood the cruelest truth. Sometimes, people don't leave because they don't love you. They leave because loving you became inconvenient. And answering that message, even a single word, would have trapped me in a cycle I was no longer willing to survive. I put my phone down, cold and heavy in my hand, and for the first time in weeks, I let myself breathe. Not because I was okay, not because the pain was gone, but because I had finally made a choice for myself. A few days later, a mutual friend called me. Her voice was hesitant, almost apologetic. She told me things I had been too afraid to confirm, things that made my stomach twist into knots. She's been seeing him for weeks, my friend said quietly. Not emotionally, physically. She's been living a double life while you were at work, while you waited for her text, while you planned a future together. I didn't speak. I just listened, the words sinking in like ice water into my chest. Every late night, every canceled plan, every distant smile, it all made sense now. The betrayal wasn't a single moment. It was months of tiny, careful choices that I had ignored or rationalized. My friend tried to soften it. She probably didn't think you'd ever find out. She didn't plan to hurt you, at least not intentionally. I felt a surge of something I couldn't name. Anger? Sadness? Shock? All of it. I realized that loving her had blinded me, had made me naive, had let me build my life with someone who had already checked out emotionally, even while I believed we were inseparable. I hung up the phone and stared at the ceiling. The apartment was silent except for my breathing. And in that silence, I understood the final truth. She hadn't left me suddenly. She had been leaving me slowly, day by day, while I stayed, waiting for a love that had quietly moved on without me. I realized then that the pain I felt wasn't just from losing her. It was from discovering the life I thought I had never really existed. I didn't see her for a week after that call. I avoided places she might be, muted notifications, and stayed off social media. But the messages started again. I need to see you. I'm sorry. Please. At first, I wanted to respond. Part of me wanted to believe she had realized her mistake, that she had felt the weight of what she had done, that we could somehow go back. But the other part, the part that had been screaming at me for months, knew better. I thought about the nights I waited, the moments I ignored, the laughter she had shared with someone else while I believed I was enough. I thought about the trust one had given her, whole and unshakable, and how easily she had discarded it. I put my phone down and didn't pick it back up. That night, I sat in the dark and finally allowed myself to cry. Not just for the loss of her, but for the version of myself that believed in us so completely, so blindly. For the part of me that had hoped she would choose me, that had loved her even when it hurt more than I could bear. And in that release, I felt something unexpected, a glimmer of freedom. Not joy, not relief. Just the beginning of a life where my heart didn't depend on someone else's choice. It hurt. It tore me apart. But I knew I couldn't go back. Not to her. Not to the lies. Not to the person who had left while I was still standing at the start. Sometimes letting go isn't about forgiving. It's about saving yourself. A few weeks later, I ran into her completely by chance. At a coffee shop, laughing with him, Ethan. She didn't see me at first. The way she leaned into him, the soft smiles, the casual touches, everything screamed intimacy. My first instinct was to turn and leave. My second was to confront her. But something stopped me. I realized I wasn't angry anymore. At least, not in the way that made me feel small and powerless. I was just done. She finally noticed me. Her eyes widened, a flash of recognition, maybe guilt. But she didn't run over. She didn't apologize. She just waved, awkwardly, like we were acquaintances, not the couple who had shared a life together. I felt a strange mix of relief and devastation. Relief that I wasn't trapped in her chaos anymore. Devastation because she had been so integral to my life that losing her had left a hole I wasn't sure would ever fill. As I walked away, I noticed something about myself. I wasn't desperate. I wasn't begging for answers. I wasn't begging for her back. I was alive in a way I hadn't been for months, seeing her happiness with someone else without being consumed by jealousy. I realized then the cruel irony of love. Sometimes, the people who hurt you the most also teach you the most about yourself. And while she had moved on, I had finally started to rebuild, brick by brick, alone but stronger than. Weeks passed. I avoided her social media, blocked her number, and tried to live my life. I started going out again, spending time with friends, slowly remembering what it felt like to exist outside of her shadow. Then I heard from a mutual friend something I hadn't expected. She had tried to reach out several times after that coffee shop encounter. Messages left unsent, calls never made, apologies drafted but never delivered. She hadn't wanted to admit how much she had hurt me, or maybe she didn't care enough to. I imagined her fingers hovering over the keyboard, trying to compose words that would make me forgive her, trying to recreate the intimacy she had destroyed. And then I realized something even more painful. The only person who could ever heal that wound was me. No apology would fix the months of deception, the nights spent waiting, the slow erosion of trust. No declaration of love could undo the quiet, deliberate distance she had built while I was still giving everything. I understood fully that the life I thought I had was gone. The person I thought I loved had been gone for months. And the only choice left for me was to let go entirely. I never replied. I never called. And in that refusal, I finally reclaimed a fragment of myself that had been lost in her absence. Months later, life started to feel a little lighter. I moved apartments, changed my routine, and started focusing on work and friends. I wasn't happy yet. The wound was still raw, but I was no longer defined by her absence. Then one evening, I ran into her again. This time at a mutual friend's party. She was alone. No Ethan. No smiles. No laughter. Just her, standing quietly in the corner, looking smaller somehow. She saw me and froze. I didn't approach her. I didn't need to. I realized something shocking. The power she had held over me was gone. I didn't feel anger, not fully. I didn't feel jealousy. I felt free. Later, I heard from a friend that Ethan had left her. Apparently, she had built her life on someone else, only to realize he wasn't what she wanted. She had tried to recreate the same intimacy she had with me, but it crumbled instantly. I thought about it for hours that night. The cruel irony cut deep. She had been planning her escape while I stayed loyal, heart open, waiting. And now, when she finally needed someone to hold her, there was no one. I could have reached out. I could have comforted her, but I didn't, because I had learned the hardest lesson of all. Love is not about holding on to someone who doesn't want to stay. Love is about protecting yourself when they leave. And in that moment, I finally let go completely. I lost her. I lost the future I imagined. But I found myself.